So, first of all, I want to congratulate the Seattle Sounders of winning the 2022 CONCACAF Champions League, and also the reason why I decided to do this review a day later than the actual historic event happened where the Sounders become the first team to ever win CCL is because I was at my friend's house over my off day, and that rather of me just do a video where I, of course, have a travel board and basically record from their living room or from their bedroom or even from their bathroom. I simply could not do that. I mean, this was just such a big game, and it turns out to be a historical game, not only for the Seattle Sounders, but just for Major League Soccer and American soccer in a whole, that I simply can't just use a makeshift kind of room and a makeshift kind of board to just talk about that. I had to wait until I get back home today to talk about, as I mentioned, a historic event that happened at Lumen's Field last night as the Seattle Sounders becoming the first MLS team to win the CONCACAF Champions League and finally ending that curse of an MLS team unable to reach the mountaintop. And I think it's also safe to say that, the Sounders are really a team that deserve fully and also so rightfully so becoming the first MLS team to finally conquer that mountain, because this team has really been considered the model franchise ever since they came into the league back in 2009. I mean, they have basically won everything in American soccer, from MLS Cup, Supporters Shield, and US Open Cup. And now they can gladly be said they are the first MLS team to pretty much win everything in terms of the region, now that they, of course, won CCL. Now, first of all, before I mention what happened in this game, a record crowd was expected on hand for this game. Again, I was actually thinking about attending this one, and I do now feel like I have a lot of regret not attending this one, because when they released the tickets for this game, it was only $50. Like, that is relatively cheap compared to the tickets you were going to get just a couple of days before the game, of course, happened, where the tickets were like 3 times and 4 times as expensive as where I was planning to sit in the upper bowl for only $50. There was a lot of hype video surrounding this game. I mean, there was some famous athlete like Marshawn Lynch talk about this is a big effing game. And most importantly, we also have a hype video from Ken Griffey Jr., which I think a lot of people, including Sounders fans, were hoping that of course, is the case. And the fact that Ken Griffey Jr. actually made a hype video about this, I mean, that this is a big game, and that this is not like any Sounders game or any game that involve an MLS team in whatsoever. Now, the other thing that I've also wanted to mention is that the Sounders decided to go with the same starting 11 as Leg 1, and little do we know that after this historical win that they had, they would actually had a couple of those players that unfortunately would not make it through the 90 minutes because of injuries, which I'll of course talk about a little later, and maybe that's the only negative coming out of this game for the Sounders. I mean, hey, if you want to do something historic, there's going to be maybe some price to pay in terms of it. But in the first half, I thought Pumas dominated possession early, and I think for the first 5 minutes, the possession was like 80-20 in favor of Pumas, which is exactly not what the Sounders will want to do. I mean, I've heard that Brian Schmitz have said that they want to control this game from the get-go. They want to take control this game. They want to dictate their play and have the record crowd in terms of rooting for them to get a victory, and that doesn't seem like it was the case, at least for the first 5 minutes, because Pumas were by far the better team. Though, as expected, I thought it was kind of a cagey start to this game, which with not much chances that has happened. But then in the 11th minute, this is when it looked like there was going to be a huge setback for the Sounders to potentially make history, as Nuhu had to be subbed off of what apparently is a knee injury, and Kellen Rowe basically replaced him. Now, I'm not going to lie, Kellen Rowe is definitely a player that can come in and be a serviceable player, but losing Nuhu, one of the best, if not the best defender, and certainly fan favorite for the Sounders, that looked like it was maybe the first of what would be another death blow that we thought the Sounders would suffer later in this game. In the 12th minute, the first shot of the game came as Rui Diaz volleyed one straight to Talavera. Rui Diaz would be the catalyst in terms of this historic night that the Sounders would have, as I mentioned a little bit later. But there was no doubt the Sounders were getting into this game, and they were pressing to try to get an early advantage. Rui Diaz had another strike that goes straight to Talavera. Though I thought Pumas eventually ride out the storm, and they themselves were looking to try to get the opening goal. And then in the 29th minute, this is where their death blow looked like was going to be the case for the Sounders, as João Paulo had to be stretchered off. And from what I've heard, it seems like it could be an ACL injury that he suffered, which, when you hear the A word, you know that that's not a good thing, and that it seems like I don't want to speculate, but it seemed like he could be done for the season because of that, and that Ober Vargas, of course, replaced him. By the way, Ober Vargas, I mentioned many times about this kid being the next best thing. I mean, it is incredible what this kid has been going through in this year, where you gotta remember he's only 16 years old. Like, not a lot of people would have guessed the fact that with the way that he's been playing for the Sounders, especially at times starting for him, and now coming into a game that is such historic as this one is. I mean, you wouldn't have guessed that. Of course, is the case where he's only 16 years old. I mean, it turns out he will also look throughout this game kind of look like a guy that has been to finals before, even though this was really the first big final that he has ever played for this team. Now, in the 32nd minute, there was the first real chance for Pumas, as Caruso just missed high from close range. And then in the 41st minute, on the other end, Ladero puts it wide after kind of an unorthodox sliding shot. I mean, that was kind of an interesting thing, kind of shot on goal, where he kind of just slide in and almost trying to like toe poke that one in. And even when we see players kind of slide to trying to toe poke it in, it must be from close range. But here, he basically did it from like 16 yards out. Kind of very unorthodox, but it just went wide there. Though in the 43rd minute, Fry did rob Dinero, as there was a foul that was being called. So even though if Dinero would put that one away, it wouldn't have counted. But still, what a save that was from Stefan Fry. And Dinero, we talk about he's the dangerous man for this Pumas team. He was relatively quiet throughout this game. I mean, he did have 2 good looks in this game, but the Sounders did a much better job shutting him down compared to what they did in the first leg. But then in the 45th minute, just as we thought that we were going to head to the second half with all to play for, and this game being scoreless, Ruiz Diaz would score from Arriaga to give the Sounders a 1-0 lead. And when that goal went in, Lumen Field completely erupted. Like, the roof basically came off of that stadium, where I even wrote it was the loudest I've ever heard Lumen, and certainly an MLS crowd erupted after a goal. Like, you probably won't hear it too much on the FS1 audio, because FS1, they tend to, for whatever reason, don't do a good job in terms of the audio. But even with the mess up audio, you can hear that it was loud. Like, it was like I said, the loudest I've ever heard a crowd basically celebrate, because they know how much that goal means to them, and how much it means to the Sounders, with the way that now they have a leg up and have a chance where they're only 45 minutes away to potentially making history. Though another thing I will also want to say about this goal is that this was kind of a very scrappy goal, where Ruiz Diaz basically kind of mishit this one, and it kind of took a wicked deflection off of one of the Pumas player. I think it was Diogo, the one that was deflected this one, and then Talavera already committed, and he could not quite readjust himself to save that one, and it just basically rolled into the back of the net. But scrappy or not, it's a goal, and I think even Brian Schmitz have said it doesn't matter how each of the goals are scored. If that ball actually goes in, that's all it matters. And yeah, the Sounders were up 1-0 in this one. Oh, by the way, I didn't mean Brian Schmitz. I meant John Strong kind of mentioned Brian Schmitz has kind of talked about that before. Or was that Stu Holden? I think it was Stu Holden basically mentioned that. But anyway, we head to the second half with the Sounders leading 1-0, and they continue to be on the front foot heading into the second half, which is exactly what they need to do, because that we've seen it before, where teams that might go up 1-0, especially MLS team, go up 1-0 and it looked like they had the advantage, and then they don't have the advantage anymore. And if you want me to talk about exactly the same scenario that I've seen, an MLS team basically went up 1-0 and it looked like they were going to finally be the first to win CCL. Look what happened to LAFC in 2020. And in some case, you can also say, or in some way, you can also say the Sounders. They went up 1-0 against Leon, and they basically lost that lead and lost that league cup. So the Sounders, they were making sure that it's not going to happen again, and they were looking to be on the front foot. Though I thought Pumas did start to kind of get into the game again, and they were definitely winning some dangerous free kick. One of those dangerous free kick came in the 61st minute when Dinero just missed it high from 24 yards out, or actually not 24 yards out, but 21 yards out. That was probably the closest that Juan Dinero came scoring for Pumas. And then in the 65th minute, Fry absolutely robbed Diogo from a point-blank header. And, I know this might not be a moment that might be remembered as the biggest moment of the game, but I think you could argue that this should be the case because, yeah, I mean, this one, it looked like it was goal-bound. It looked like, here we go again where an MLS team looked like they were on verge of making history, only for a Liga MX team to get an equalizer, and you know what's going to happen after that. And I even kind of wrote that after what I wrote, Pumas is pushing for an equalizer. I feel like here we go again. It looked like this is going to be happening again where an MLS team looked like they have the advantage in CCL, and in a blink of an eye, they don't have the advantage anymore. Now, a couple of minutes after that they announced that the attendance of this game, 68,741 attended this one, which not only is a new CCL Final attendance record, but it's actually a new attendance record for any CONCACAF Champions League game. I mean, we knew that there was going to be a big crowd out of this game, and yeah, that Seattle crowd definitely showed up. And one thing I'll also say about that crowd, throughout past years, we know that Mexican team tends to dominate MLS stadium and the crowd in these big games, and even in a CONCACAF Champions League final. That was not the case in this game. I mean, sure, yes, there was definitely a lot of Pumas fans in attendance in this one, but I would say that the majority of the fans in this one was wearing Rave Green, and I would say that 85-15 of those fans at Lumen's Field were wearing Rave Green, and that's kind of another example of how far MLS has come, where we finally got to a point where, an MLS team is in a big game like this are not dominated by a Liga MX crowd, and that I'm so proud that the Sounders are actually have fans to fill up that stadium, because that might have been a worry for some fans, especially with the way that Pumas is definitely a well-known team in Mexico. But the Sounders, they showed up, and they really packed that place and really give the advantage for the Sounders in this one. Now, Talavera then denied Rodon, who tried to curl one in. And at this point, I kind of also got so nervous that I immediately wrote the classic cliche of the next goal might decide the outcome of this final. I mean, I know that shouldn't be a cliche that I write, because anytime when we have a score at 1-0 and we're heading into the last 15 minutes, that's like the most cliche thing to say. But yeah, I mean, I know that the Sounders, of course, are very close in terms of getting it done, but I just feel like something bad is going to happen, and that somehow Pumas is going to find a way to get the equalizer, and next thing you know, Pumas is going to take the lead. But instead, that did not happen, because in the 80th minute, Ruiz Diaz would score from Ladero and Morris to give the Sounders a 2-0 lead. I wrote history might happen, and you notice I quote might, because I still didn't believe it. Like, first of all, that goal that the Sounders scored, it was a beautifully worked goal where they really sparked this one on the counter attack, and that Morris basically puts a good ball into Ladero, and Ladero with a selfish or unselfish effort here to basically play it to Ruiz Diaz, who make no mistake here to give the Sounders a 2-0 lead. But like I said, despite the fact that it seems like that goal might have killed this game off, I still had that small doubt, the fact that I've seen heartbreak happen to MLS team before. But those doubts all came to an end in the 88th minute when Ladero would score the third and what really is the final blow of this game. And I also kind of wrote, only fitting, the captain for the Sounders would score in that. How many times we have said Nico Ladero has scored a big goal for the Seattle Sounders in big games? I mean, it feels like we would said this every single year with him ever since he came to the Sounders in 2016, and that it's only fitting the fact that he would score the third goal that pretty much solidified that the Sounders are going to make history of becoming the first MLS team to win CCL, and that is exactly what happened in this one. As in the end, the Sounders were able to win 3-0 against Pumas, 5-2 on aggregate, and the shots in this one just tells you that the Sounders absolutely deserve to win the CONCACAF Champions League, as they had 15 shots compared to 7 that Pumas had, 9 shots on goal compared to 1 that Pumas had, 4 shots off target compared to 3 that the Sounders had, 3 shots that was blocked compared to 2 that Pumas had, and possession-wise, 50% possession for both of these teams, and that, like I said, what a moment this is. This is not only for the Sounders, but certainly for Major League Soccer and for U.S. Soccer to finally say that we finally seen an MLS team winning the CONCACAF Champions League. I mean, just years of frustration of seeing MLS team fail to conquer that mountain. And I also know that, some people might say that it was eventually going to happen, but even then, you simply wouldn't, just don't believe it until it finally happened. And that when it finally happened, I actually celebrate. And, my feelings toward the Seattle Sounders, and that they're definitely not my most favorite team. In fact, if you actually watch my video of talking about some of my most hated team in MLS, the Sounders are one, if not the most hated team that I have in MLS. But I really think this was a game where really just you kind of had to kind of put rivalry aside. I mean, unless you're a Timbers fan, every MLS fans I think was reunited in this moment and hope that finally the Sounders will make MLS proud of finally getting themselves on the map and finally getting over that mountain to beat a Liga MX team in a final. Now, I will also say that I know there's going to be some excuses coming down from Liga MX, and maybe even some that is watching this video and going to type in the comment section saying that, yes, they finally did it. I mean, it only took like 16 try, and that, we are basically acting like we are now the kings of the CONCACAF region, when, literally this has only happened once, and maybe this is just kind of a fluke. And even some will say that Pumas is a team that is not the strongest Liga MX team to represent in the CONCACAF Champions League final, which they have a point. I mean, Pumas just barely made it to the Liga playoff as being a 12 seed in the Clausura there, but still, at the end of the day, I feel like this is a watershed moment for MLS, and that this hopefully may be a moment that we can finally start to say that MLS team is no longer fearing this competition, of no longer have to have that kind of undue task to begin the tournament, that, can they finally be the first team to win it? Because I think now the question is there going to be more MLS team that's going to win this competition? Because I feel like in the future there is going to be do it, and that I think as we analogy I would say, when you score see a player that struggled to score a goal, and when he finally score one, you can see the goal start to flow him. I feel like this is going to be the same thing with MLS team in CCL. As soon as we finally see a team that make a historical moment, I won't be surprised there's going to be more MLS team that's going to win. Now, whether it's going to be the very next year, I don't know. But, I have a feeling it's not going to be very long before we see another MLS team that will be in the same position that the Sounders are in. And maybe in the future, there's not going to be as big deal as what we just saw last night with the Sounders becoming the first MLS team to conquer that feat. But for now, it's just such a big feat because, it's hard to believe that it finally has happened. I mean, I know a lot of people even said coming into this year that this is the year to finally happen, and I personally said it too, but I just kind of feel like, there's just something talks about past history that makes me feel like it's not going to happen. And when the Sounders went down 2-0 against Pumas, I thought it was, here we go again. This is going to be more CCL disappointment, but again, just something, like, I feel like that first leg when the Sounders got those 2 goal back, you just kind of feel like something has changed. I mean, I still was being very cautiously optimistic, but at the same time, just feels like something special is going to happen, because we have never seen these kind of situation where an MLS team can find themselves in such a deficit and had to overcome like that, and then basically in the second leg they would of course do the same thing and actually win the tie. And that, again, you gotta credit what the Sounders have done, and that, as I said, hopefully this is going to be something that we're going to see more and more often, and that I have a feeling in these next couple of years, or even in these next 10 years, we're going to see more MLS teams will be conquering the CONCACAF region and winning this competition again. Because, like I said, this is not going to be the last time we're going to see an MLS team win CCL. But it is definitely the first time we have finally seen a team done it after just years and years of frustration. But let me know in the comments below, what do you think of this video, and what do you think of this tournament as a whole? I mean, there has to be so many relief faces, and maybe even some MLS fans that can finally talk or back up the talk that MLS has finally closed the gap of Liga MX. I mean, I will say that in terms of the gap, yes, it has closed, but are we still on level playing field? I'm not so sure yet, because again, you know, Liga MX fans will bring out those excuses and in some way legitimately reason the fact that, you know, Liga MX still dominate this region, with the most team ever winning that tournament by a country mile, and that, you know, some would say that this is just kind of a fluke, and that, again, the good way to back up that by saying that it's not a fluke is seeing more teams in the future able to do what the Sounders did, which is of course becoming the first team to win CCL. But like I said, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you guys leave a like, smash the subscribe button, and yeah, I of course will see you guys next time.